Hello and good afternoon, beautiful teacups. I hope you are all doing well. It's nice to see you catching up with each other in the chat. Nice to see you joining me live from Teacup Castle, where it is warm. It is roasty toasty today in Ireland, people. It is hot, hot. And unfortunately, unfortunately, I had to hear my own voice. There's nothing so rotten as hearing your own voice. It's absolutely brutal. Every time it's rotten. But I've been out running some errands in the sun, lads. So, oh my God, I am roasty toasty. But I hope you are all getting to enjoy some of the sun, enjoy the good weather. It does be rainy and cold long enough. So you have to enjoy it when it comes along. I hope everybody's had an ice cream. I'm still on the coffee because can't help myself. But hello, Stuart. Stuart is here. Himself and the cat are outside in the shade. I have one cat actually under the desk because she's decided that's where she's going to take up residence. She's minding my shoes for me, which is just very kind of her. The other one, I believe, is outside in the shade in the garden. I believe that's where she is at the moment. Hello, also, I see that we do also have Sam in the house. We've got Damien. Of course, we've got Rob in the chat. Rob always united. Rob always in the chat. We have got Gaz United as well, with loads of the lovely teacups in the house, loads and loads of the teacups. Please do remember to smash that like button, please, ladies and gentlemen, because otherwise I'm going to forget to say it later on in the show. Now, because I have been out running errands and it's roasty toasty, and then I made a coffee, and then I was playing with the cats, I'm not very organised this morning. I have to be honest, I'm not organised. So what we are going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about Nuno, which I did tell you yesterday, to be fair, was going to be today's topic. I told you in advance that's what we were going to do. He hasn't yet been sacked, but we'll go through everything. So yesterday we did all about poor Spurs, all about poor Spurs yesterday. So no Spurs today. Today we're picking on West Ham. Well, we're not picking on them really. We're just having a wee chat. And if we have some time for transfers at the end, we'll have a little look at those. But let's kick off with Nuno. So obviously things are not particularly good at West Ham at the moment. I'm sort of okay with that because I want to buy several of their players. I don't think we'll get several, but it would be nice to get at least some of them. Now, Sam is straight in the chat saying, I think they would be mad to sack Nuno, which probably would have been my initial impression. However, since I've actually looked into it, do you know what? Nuno seems to be a bit of a problem child at West Ham. It doesn't seem to be going very well. It may actually be the best thing for the club to sack him, if I'm totally honest. Now, that's a very different take than Sam's, and I think most of you probably will agree with Sam because that seems to be the take that I've seen the most, if I'm honest with you. And as I said, it would have been my take until I started looking at it, right? So, Roshan. I'm going to call him Roshan. If that's not how you say it, I do apologise. It's spelled like Roshan, but surely that's not how you pronounce it. So I'm going to say Roshan Thomas, but he's the West Ham correspondent for The Athletic, okay? So he's pretty well placed to have a fair idea what's going on at West Ham. Better than me anyway. So I'm going to use a lot of his information, Roshan, so I do hope I'm at least saying his name right when I'm going to use all his information. But this is his sort of synopsis of what's happening with Nuno at West Ham. So, Todibo told Nuno he would never play for him again. The club must raise £150 million in player sales. Nuno has had several clashes with backroom staff, and most of the players preferred Potter's pre-game preparation. So he's done Roshan the whole article. And the article is inside West Ham's miserable relegation, okay? And it's a big old angry picture of Nuno. And then we have Jared Bowen, we've my wee friend Mavropanos, and we have Tati Castellano. So, inside West Ham's miserable relegation, and he's added to that in the byline, in the mini heading, Nuno's cold approach, a leadership void, and now a player exodus, ? Now, Roshan wrote this 2 days ago. This is from the 24th of May, 2026. Okay, I'm obviously not going to read the entire although it's quite a short article. I'm not going to read every single word of the article, but let me put it in the chat in case anybody wants to save it to come back and watch later. I know sometimes JT on the lunchtime show watches on the catch up, and JT likes to do the reading himself. Doesn't trust me. Hello to Lucky. Lucky is with us as well. Hello to Lucky. Nice to see you. And we've also got Huge in the house. Hello to Huge. Thank you for joining us, guys. And All Boxed Up has just entered the chat as well. Hello, hello, hello. So this is from Roshan Thomas in The Athletic. Now, the reason I'm starting with this is it gives an overarching of everything. And then I'm going to go into the details of some of the specific things that Roshan has mentioned, okay? So he starts with, those who watch West Ham United regularly will tell you the club have been sleepwalking to relegation from the moment a ball was kicked in anger in August. Some would probably argue the drift began when David Moyes left the club for the second time in the summer of 2024. And as we know, David Moyes has done pretty okay at Everton this season. Not so much when he was at United. David Moyes is a bit of a mixed bag. You have to get the right David Moyes. If the right David Moyes shows up, he's brilliant. But you have to get the right one. Neil has joined us. Hello to Neil. And of course, Bruno is in the chat. Hello to Bruno. Bruno's having the best time. I disagree with you very strongly, by the way, Bruno. Our greatest ever midfielder is a terrible pundit, but was a very good midfielder these days. So West Ham will wake up, having sleptwalked their way to the relegation, will wake up next season in the Championship after a season that has been an unmitigated mess on and off the pitch. Leadership voids, managerial turnover, a scattergun approach to recruitment, and unrest in the stands have all combined to send the club down to the second tier for the first time since 2011. 10 years on from their move to the London Stadium, one that was supposed to help the club compete with the Premier League's elite, the general mood among the club's fans has been one of misery and detachment, with protests against chairman David Sullivan and the now departed, who we spoke about, Vice Chair Karen Brady, the soundtrack to so much of the season. So let us skip through some of the... I do love the drama. I love the drama, but let us skip through some of the flowery stuff. Demotion to the second tier will have far-reaching consequences on and off the pitch, with doubts over head coach Nuno Espirito Santo's future. Several players expected to leave and job losses likely to come behind the scenes. So all sorts going on. Hello, our moonshine. Now, guys, I just have to let you know, because I can hear the tractor outside. I have my windows open today because it's just absolutely too hot. There's no way I was getting through this stream with the window closed. I normally keep it closed for noise. Today I have to have it open. So if there's a little bit of background noise, I do apologize. It shouldn't be too much because the mic's designed not to pick it all up. But if you hear a little bit, sorry, it's that or die of heat stroke, and I'm just not doing that. So this season has been a sorry tale. The Athletic, having spoken to sources in and around the club who were speaking on condition of anonymity, blah, 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 can reveal for the first time what went wrong for Nuno at West Ham, including many players believed the team prepared better for matches under Potter than Nuno. Nuno often chose not to talk to players during half-time or after matches. Nuno was unable to bring in his backroom staff from his successful Forest spell. The manager clashed with assistant Mark Robson during the 3-0 loss at Wolves. And this isn't really to do with Nuno specifically, but the club must raise £150 million in player sales this summer. And Matheus Fernandes has no release clause, right? So that's not really relevant. I don't know why they've added that as a bullet point. That's like really irrelevant. But okay. Blah, blah, blah. So there's Graham Potter, senior players. Now, I've seen a lot about this stuff with Michail Antonio. There's been a lot of stuff out there about, obviously, Karen Brady has already left, but there's been a whole load of articles out there about Michail Antonio after he broke his leg, that he had a meeting with Karen Brady. They wanted to demote him to the under-21s, and he said, well, I at the very least want to be recompensed properly. You know, like, I'm not an under-21, let's not be silly. And Karen Brady was like, well, the under-21s haven't broken their leg. We don't even know how you're going to recover. And there was real bad feeling there. So Antonio, the club's all-time scorer in the Premier League, failed to agree to terms of a new deal after recovering from the car crash that threatened his life, and was informed of his release by then head of recruitment Kyle McCauley. Now, he was informed by Kyle McCauley, but according to all the reports, that was after he'd already had a meeting with Karen, who was already departed, but apparently that meeting was really fractured. Like, it wasn't good. It was really quite nasty by the sounds of it, if what he was saying is true. And based on her reputation, it probably is. Blah, blah, blah. There's Potter. The squad returned, blah, blah, blah. The squad returned for training on July the 8th, and Potter had drawn up a long list of targets. Jean-Claire Todibo's season-long loan from Nice had been converted into a permanent deal, but the lack of additions had left the squad thin. Now, we're going to speak about Todibo now in a little minute, because there's a separate article on him that I want to bring in. Potter, it was Potter that identified Mateus Fernandes, blah, blah, blah. And then Diouf. And they're also looking at, so Potter identified Fernandes and Diouf, and now they're looking at selling both of them to make this money that they need to raise. There's Callum Wilson, Kyle Walker-Peters, blah, blah, blah. There's still Potter. We already know about that. Tell us about Nuno, lads. Tell us about Nuno. Okay, so Potter had lost the dressing room. His relationship became strained. The board were aware of the unrest, and Potter's time was up on September 27th. Blah, blah, blah. Unbeknownst to Potter, the hierarchy had sounded out interest from Nuno, who had been sacked by Forest on September the 9th, and their former manager, Slaven Bilic. Nuno was the preferred option because the board felt he had a better chance of securing Premier League safety. Well, that's not worked out very well, has it? Nuno, blah, blah, blah. Nuno's appointment as head coach was announced. He became the highest paid manager in West Ham's 130-year history, but a number of clauses were inserted into his 3-year contract. He would receive a significant salary reduction in the event of relegation and could be sacked without compensation if they dropped to the Championship. So when he signed up to West Ham, he became the highest paid manager in West Ham's 130-year history. But if they get relegated, and they have, he gets a significant salary reduction and he can be sacked without compensation. Important clauses, very relevant for the situation they currently find themselves in. Nuno was unable to appoint his trusted staff from Forest because of a legal dispute with his former club over his sacking. We already know that's all a bit at the minute. So he didn't have his favoured coaches, basically. It was blah, 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 blah. So they failed to win their first 4 league games under Nuno. In the first 2 months of Nuno's reign, concerns grew among the players about the lack of tactical preparation for games. Nuno was not hands-on in the training, with responsibilities instead delegated to Robson, Potts and Prenderville. Despite the struggles under Potter, many believed the team prepared better for matches under him when it came to video analysis and tactical meetings. Under Nuno, training was often split into 2 groups: the starting 11 and the fringe players. And it was here where James Ward-Prowse felt the wrath of Nuno. So he's another one he's fell out with. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. The board were concerned with how Nuno alienated Ward-Prowse, but felt they had to back him because he was their appointment. So literally, when Nuno greeted the players after overseeing his first training session, he informed Ward-Prowse privately that he would not feature in his plans. The 31-year-old midfielder had to train by himself. The board were concerned with how Nuno alienated Ward-Prowse, but felt they had to back him because he was their appointment. So after his very first training session, there was already problems. There was already problems after his first training session. There was concerns by the board after his first training session. But they felt they had no choice because they'd picked him now and they had to keep going with him. So blah, 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 blah. Given the low morale and poor performances, it was decided there would not be a Christmas party. Yeah, because that's going to help your morale. You've been so crap you don't get a Christmas party. That's going to be even better, isn't it? That's going to help the situation. The players had not done any team bonding exercises since the departure of Antonio, Cresswell, Kufal and Zuma, and a new WhatsApp group had not been started. I mean, WhatsApp groups can be toxic, to be fair. I don't know if that would be a major problem. Off the field, tension grew stronger between Nuno, Robson, Potts, Prenderville and Lepine. So that's his training staff. That's his coaches. So he's fallen out with all his coaches. Shout out, Stuart. Guys, I am going to get to your comments. I just want to finish going through the article, and then, because there's no point in me stopping and starting, so I'm going to finish the article and then I'm going to go through your comments, okay? So, off-field tension started to grow between himself and his coaches. According to multiple sources, the coach, who is Nuno, openly admitted he did not trust them. So Nuno's pottering about the place, right? Week 1 tells James Ward-Prowse, you're in the bin, you have to train by yourself. He then split the team between like, yous are the good guys, yous are the shit guys. The board were already having second thoughts. He then starts falling out with all his coaches and is openly saying, I don't trust them. I don't trust my coaching staff. The ones I want can't come here because of legal problems. The board had 2 solutions. The first was pitched in late December when they asked Nuno to consider an external appointment. Blah, blah, blah. And so Nuno brought in James, who was his former teammate at La Coruña. Another solution was to appoint a director of football before the January transfer window, but Brady, Karen, felt it would disrupt Nuno's first window and the situation would be reassessed in the summer, right? So look, that didn't help. We know that didn't help because they've been relegated. In the build-up to the 3-0 loss to Wolves on January the 3rd, Nuno had a disagreement with Callum Wilson. So he fell out with Wilson and told him he could leave. And don't forget, he's already fell out with James Ward-Prowse the minute he arrived. Wilson had yet to play a full match since his summer move, but did so in this fixture, right? So he's fell out with all the staff. He's started to concern the board. He's fell out with James Ward-Prowse, and now he's fell out with Callum Wilson to the point where he's told him he can leave. Sorry, guys, I lost my spot there. Right, let us keep going. Blah, blah, blah. Wilson is not the only person that Nuno fell out with at the start of the year, yeah, we know. He often chose not to speak to the players during half-time and after games. At the interval against Wolves, Robson, who was one of the coaching staff, attempted to give the players a rollicking because of the poor performance. Nuno told his assistant coach to sit down. So his assistant coach is attempting to coach, and Nuno told him to sit down, and they had a bit of a row. They had a bit of an argy-bargy, so they did. But it keeps going. So even though the board have expressed doubts, Nuno still retained the full support of the hierarchy. But internally, they admitted for the first time that the club could go down. Okay, so that's when they started to panic. That was when they started to panic. Shout out all box stuff. Thank you very much. I appreciate your super chat. Thank you very much, my dear. So let me see. blah, blah, blah. So then Pablo got signed, the one who hasn't scored any goals. Pablo, the one who hasn't scored any goals. So he was the first January arrival from Gil Vicente. The 22-year-old striker joined for 20 million. The medical team advised Nuno not to sign Pablo because he had a hamstring injury. He ignored them. So not only does he not trust his coaching staff, he also didn't trust the medical team. And to be fair, we spend a lot of time on this channel talking about medical teams, if they're doing their job properly, how do players keep getting all of these long-term injuries, questioning the medical team's professionalism. But here you have a medical team saying, this dude has got a hamstring injury. Don't sign him. It's January. You need somebody who can play. And Nuno goes, never mind that, and gets him anyway. So, I mean, what can they do with that? Blah, 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 blah. Tashi Castellanos on loan, 2 of the blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Sorry, guys. It's a long article, and I don't want to read like every single word of it. So I'm trying to read the bits that aren't fluff, basically. Apologies if you can hear the reversing truck in my, I live in the most rural street ever, and all of a sudden, the minute I have the window open, there's every amount of noise you can possibly imagine. We've tractors, reversing trucks, and what I believe is a car with a very bad exhaust. But it's too warm, it has to stay open. So there's Paqueta, who was cleared of spot fixing in July after a 2-year investigation by the FA, told Nuno he was not in the right frame of mind to play and wanted to rejoin boyhood club Flamenco. So that's not really to do with Nuno. He just said he'd leave. Let me see. Sorry, guys, I'm going to have to close this window because there's just so much noise. Bear with me 1 second. Maybe, I don't know if you guys can hear it if you can't, but I can, and it's very distracting, which is just a bit of a pain in the backside. But here we are. Okay, so back. Now, so the plan had always been for those extra funds from Paqueta to be used to sign a centre-back. A host of targets were discussed, including Eric Dyer, Charlie Cresswell, and Alessandro. But Nuno's heart was set on Disasi. The Chelsea defender wanted assurances he would start, and Nuno agreed to his demands. Okay. Let me see. That's fine. That's all okay. During the loss to Newcastle, Nuno substituted Todibo in the 25th minute for Tati Castellanos. The centre-back took issue with the substitution and complained to goalkeeping coach Barbosa. After the match, Todibo had a heated exchange with Nuno and informed the head coach he would not play for him again. So there's the third player he's fell out with. It says there are others, but these are the 3 named that he fell out with. Now, to be fair, Todibo seems to be a problem child all of his own because he's previously clashed with Lopetegui and Potter. So he wants out in the summer. So he's got a bit of a... Guys, I don't know why everyone's asking if I'm sick or a sore throat or I've got a cold. I'm not sick at all and I'm completely fine. Thank you for asking about my health. Obviously, I sound strange, but no, I'm completely fine. Not sick, no cold, no sore throat, no nothing. But thank you for checking. So one of the consequences of relegation will be they will need to sell first-team players to help fill the financial void. Club sources believe 4 or 5 of the club's first-choice players will have to be sold, with the club needing, right, we've said, the 150 million we've said already. Ooh, players who could possibly leave would be Somerville, Mavropanos, Mateus Fernandes, and the Portugal into blah, 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 blah. Right, so I would take all 3 of those, to be fair. I would take all 3 of those. blah, 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 blah. Right. So that's kind of it about Nuno. The rest is all about the players. So he's gone in. He's picked on James Ward-Prowse straight away. To be fair, right, I don't necessarily see an overall issue in terms of if he's gone in and he sort of said, look, this is my plan. This is what I set out. This is what I intend to do. You're not going to be a major part of that. I think that's pretty fair, to be honest, because that's what managers are supposed to do. A new manager comes in because what was happening under the old manager wasn't working. It's very rare that a manager leaves successfully. Do you know what I mean? Normally they leave because it's gone quite wrong. So a new manager coming in wanting to do something different, I don't necessarily see as a big major issue. I do think, kind of alienating him, making him train on his own, kind of ostracizing him from the group when he would have been in a leadership position with the team after the very first training session, I think was probably a bit silly. And obviously he's already then created question marks within the board for him. So I think it's sometimes not what you do, it's how you do it. And we talked an awful lot this season about man management, about how managers manage, how, head coaches relate to their players. Obviously, Liam Rossegno talked about the man aging and all that sort of a thing. But that's what I mean. I don't necessarily think him saying to James Ward-Prowse, look, this is the way I see the future. I don't see you as a part of it. He's being very clear with the player who can then make alternative arrangements for himself. There's no leading him on. There's no misleading him. There's no lying. It's very honest. So I don't necessarily think that's a major issue. I think it was more so the way he did it was the problem there. Mohammed, 1 month already. How the time goes within a space of a month. Also, I would raid West Ham for their players. It's a shame Nuno didn't keep them up. Well, by the sounds of it, Nuno was too busy having a row with everybody. He was too busy falling out with people all over the gaff. He didn't have time to keep them up because he was too busy arguing. Let me see. But yes, so he fell out with him. I don't think that's a major deal. The fallout with Todibo, by the sounds of it, Todibo falls out with everybody. Also, if it wasn't working, what Todibo was doing, then sub him. I think that's a good thing. If you start a lineup or if you start with a set of tactics and you see that it's not working, then I think it's intelligent. I think it's good. I think it's important that you change it quickly instead of, there's no point in being wrong and strong. There's no point in, what is the point? If it's not working, why would you stick with it until halftime? If something's happened and it's not working, you must change it. That's intelligent. That's important. It's in-game management. So again, I don't really have a question mark over the whole Todibo thing because he seems like a bit of a loose cannon himself anyway. And I don't necessarily think that was the wrong decision. But who was the other player that he fell out with? And then Callum Wilson telling Callum Wilson, oh, well, like, you can just leave. You can just leave. We don't even want you. You can just leave. I mean, if you take them individually, I'm sort of like, well, on an individual basis with Todibo and James Ward-Prowse, I don't necessarily see a major problem other than potentially how he communicated the things that he was doing. With Callum Wilson, again, it's probably the method of delivery, like, oh, well, you can just leave. Just go. Don't really care. I mean, you probably just can't do that. And if they're the ones we actively know about, but I mean, he was not only falling out with player after player after player, he was also then falling out and saying, like, publicly that he didn't trust his own coaching staff. And I think when you're publicly calling out your own coaches, when you're falling out with a big chunk of your own players, I mean, he's not speaking. So half time is to try and reevaluate things and help your team. He was like refusing to speak to the players at half time and telling off the coaching staff for trying to coach. Like, he literally had a go at one of the coaches for trying to coach during half time and then didn't speak to players after matches regularly either. And I just think to myself, if you take one on its own, not so much of a problem. Second one, you're kind of going, okay, he's just being strong. But I mean, lads, Lads, yous are all going mad in the chat. Yous are all going mad, right? Let me just talk to you guys. Let me talk to you guys for a little moment. Shout out first of all to Rob for his sticker. So Stuart put in the black cat. Then Rob got on board and he has sent the lemon. He's I don't know, he's hitting his face a little bit, this lemon. Massive shout out to Jay Muse, who was gifted a Spill the Tea Loo membership, and that has gone to our very wonderful Sam. So W's for Jay, and shout out Sam, who's officially a teacup right now. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And can I just say, guys, Rob, when we very first got the memberships, right at the beginning, Rob gifted 5 memberships, okay? Which was massive. Since that, this is the first membership that has been gifted since the 5 that Rob gifted when we very first hit 500 subscribers. So massive shout out to Jay. I always notice and remember these things. Thank you very much. And Stuart not to be outdone. Stuart's after the crown. Stuart has sent in a blushing pear, which sounds like some sort of dessert. The blushing pear. And I'm laughing here. All boxed up has said Nuno for the United Nations. Oh, guys, thank you so much to everybody. It's made me laugh. Mohammed says, since you mentioned sore throats and sneezing, I've now been doing that all of a sudden. Someone has cursed me. Oh no, do you know what to do? What's really good, if you struggle with kind of the pollen and hay fever and all that kind of stuff, local honey. If there's like, you know, the little stalls that sell honey on the side of the road near to you, like local honey from local pollinated bees, that's really good for all of that stuff. But it has to be local honey for you to get the benefit, because it has to be from the bees are pollinating the pollen that are near you to produce the honey. So then the honey is related to the pollen and it balances it out inside your system, supposedly. It's very scientific, obviously. A blushing pair of what's is all boxed up. Oh dear, but shout out, guys. That's massive. Thank you so much. This is quite exciting. I love the super stickers. I do love the super stickers. This is really exciting, though. A gifted membership. It makes me feel like a real YouTuber. Let me see. Logan, the Liverpool fan, is allergic to bloody everything. Yes, local honey. That is the trick. That is the trick. Maybe somebody should have given Nuno some honey to sweeten him up a little bit before he was allowed in the dressing room. But so one of the other players that Nuno was fell out with is apparently Areola, the goalkeeper, because his wife has taken... And guys, can I just say, even if I think, right, it sounds like Nuno went in and caused a bit of mischief. It sounds like Nuno went in, fell out with everybody, didn't really care what was happening, was on a bit of a warpath. I think Nuno woke up on the same side as the bed as Roy Keane, because he's also on the warpath at the moment, and I am unimpressed with Mr. Keane. I will at some point be doing a video on the Roy Keane, Bruno Fernandes, Michael Carrick debacle, because it's actually making me quite irritated, because I love Roy Keane. I didn't even want Carrick to be the manager, and I would have sold Bruno last summer. But Roy Keane is getting right on my last nerve, and I feel like he's doing a little bit of a tap dance on it. And I am going to do a video on that at some point, but it's not going to be right now. It's not going to be right now. All box stuff. All box stuff says you are a real YouTuber. I don't know. I still feel like I'm faking it a little bit. I still feel like I'm faking it at the moment, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Lucky says, I don't like Paul Scholes. At the minute, I don't like him. I don't like Nicky Butt. I don't like Gary Neville. I don't like Roy Keane. Do you know, actually, on that, is it the overlap they're all on? The only one I like, incredibly, actually, is Ian Wright, because he seems like a really nice person. But yeah, Roy Keane has lost the plot, says Jay. He's lost the plot completely. Actually, he's really irritating me. But I've saved your chat, Rob, because I'm going to bring that right at the end. So fake it till I make it. That's what I'm doing. I'm faking it till I make it. That's what's going on in here. But right, let me see. Let us go back on track, because I'm going to do that in a whole other video, and I'm going to do a proper video on it because it's properly annoying me and I want to have time to vent. So when we're talking about Nuno falling out with all of the players, I'm going to just show you this. Let me check this down a sec. There we go. So Alphonse Areola's wife, Areola's wife, has made her feelings about Nuno and Potter very clear via Instagram. So this is the first picture. From a trophy to a relegation. Thank you, Potter, for the start of this season, and Nuno for the end. And no World Cup this year. Thank you, Coach Nuno. Can you say shade? She is throwing some shade at Nuno. And no World Cup this year. Thank you, Coach Nuno. So there's another one. Areola, not pleased. So that's just to say, and kind of to show, while a lot of players are listed in that article, there are definitely players not listed in the article that he's also fallen out with. So he's gone in and fell out with everybody. Absolutely everybody. Fell out with his coaches that he didn't trust, ignored the players at halftime, ostracized other players, told other players that they can just leave whenever they feel like it, and now the wives are getting involved. Now, I'll be honest, I don't like that. I don't like that when I think social media makes it too accessible for everybody. I just don't think, sometimes I'm a bit like, oh, little bit cringy. But look, she's defending her husband. You can't really criticize her for that. It wouldn't be my cup of tea. I wouldn't like if our players' wives were out there on the social medias having, do you know what I mean? But her point stands. And there, you're right, Damien. Like, just madness from Nuno. He's lost the plot. He's fell out with everyone, literally everyone. And he doesn't want to take the pay cut. He doesn't want, because he gets a massive pay cut now that they're in the championship. But highly intelligent from West Ham, they can sack him for free. As I said, the Tadiba one, he seems to fall out with everyone. He's a problem on his own, and I hope my team don't look at him. He's one of the ones that I don't want my team to look at. Now, Matt Lawton then yesterday, so that article from The Athletic, Nuno Espirito salty instead of Santos. Love it. That's a good one. Nuno Espirito salty instead of Santos. I like it. So, Matt Lawton so the first article I read, that was from The Athletic, okay? And that was from Roshan. That came out on the 24th. Then yesterday, on the 25th, Matt Lawton from The Times, he came out and said, exclusive, Nuno Espirito Santo facing sack after being called to crisis talks with West Ham this morning. Sources believe a meeting likely to conclude with him being dismissed. Now, that was yesterday at 20 to 12, and he wasn't dismissed that I could find, okay? So this emergency meeting, crisis talks, is underway. They're certainly at the very least considering it, okay? Now, there is more updates, more up-to-date updates. So I'm going to bring it up in a wee second, but I feel like I'm not reading enough of your chats today because I was reading that article. But I had all the information, so there was no point in me bouncing from one thing to the next when the article had everything there. It was a very good article in The Athletic. Foxy says, Nuno's championship experience, West Ham won't find many better managers for that league. Foxy, I'll be honest, based on everything I've just read there, I think Nuno's a bit toxic at the minute. Maybe he's having a tough time. He has said himself he doesn't want to go back to the championship. He doesn't want to manage them in the championship. Nuno himself has said, I don't want to manage them in the championship. He doesn't want to take the pay cut. He doesn't want to be in the championship. He wants to be in the Premier League. And he has fell out with everybody at the club from day one. So while he may be a good coach, at West Ham, he's been toxic. From start to finish, based on this information, he's been toxic. That's not going to get anybody back promoted from the championship. Do you know what I mean? Yes, he's experienced, but he's angry. He's very angry, as Lucky says. He's very angry. Hello to Harold. Harold has joined us. Thank you very much. But there has been even talk of like who would his successor be. So West Ham, and this is from the Times then. So yesterday, and this came out at 12:10, so 10 past noon. West Ham is expected to activate a clause in Nuno Espirito's contract that will see him leave the club without any compensation being paid. Former players Scott Parker and Slaven Bilic are likely names to be considered as potential replacements. The one that keeps coming out with it, the one that keeps popping up, that keeps being linked, it seems to be Scott Parker. Scott Parker reportedly seems to be in the number one position. He's the number one favourite to take over. But considering they looked at Slaven Bilic even before they took Nuno, it's not that he's going to be left out. You know, he's a realistic possibility. But then, so that was yesterday at 10 past noon. Okay, 10 past noon. That was yesterday. Today at 9:38 a.m., there has been a shift overnight, as it's believed some of West Ham's hierarchy want Nuno to stay. A final decision is still expected to be made over the next couple of days. And that is from Jacob Steinberg. And he works for The Guardian. So, he was getting sacked. There's the clause. They had the meeting. He was going to be sacked. They were getting ready for replacements. They had a list of replacements drawn up. And then as of this morning, according to Jacob Steinberg and The Guardian, there has been a shift overnight. And it's believed some of West Ham's hierarchy want Nuno to stay. Now, what I am going to do... Yes, Scott Parker is the promotion guru. He is. Let me read. There's a little synopsis here on Football 365 about Scott Parker. The obvious favourite is Scott Parker. We don't mean to be glib. Sometimes the very obvious answer is the correct one. Scott Parker is available. He's a former West Ham player, packed full of the vital DNA and club-knowing credentials, and is also a time-served and proven achiever of promotion out of the Championship. Appoint Parker and they probably come straight back up. What they would then have to do, though, is be big enough and brave enough to get rid of him immediately and appoint an actual Premier League manager. That is from Football 365. So yes, Scott Parker is the promotion guru. You are correct and right. And Gary O'Neill, Damien is correct. Gary O'Neill is also on the list. So Football 365 did a list of the sort of top 10 favourites at the minute. So Scott Parker was in at number 1 and Slaven Bilic at number 2. So 2 we've just spoken about. Gary O'Neill was in at number 3. So you're correct and right, Damien. And Football 365, right? So I've just read out what they have said about Scott Parker. What I've just read there is what they've said about Scott Parker. Beside Gary O'Neill's name, what they've written is, it would at least spare him the worst fate of being forced to take the Chelsea job in November. Oh, I just thought that was quite funny. I did think that was a little bit funny. It did make me laugh, to be fair. And yes, so then, Damien, you are right. Number 4 then on their list is Craig Bellamy. So I think you've read the same article I'm reading, because Craig Bellamy is number 4 on the list. He's considered a genuinely interesting wild card option, but also a monumental gamble at a time when West Ham can't really afford such frivolity, according to them. Harold says, managers saying they're too good for his current club are losing my respect and belief. Totally agree, Harold. Totally agree. When you're that up your own backside, how are you going to see what's going on around you? Let me see. Football 365, it's like a website. So instead of like a physical paper, it's like for news publications. They're varying reliability, Harold. Varying reliability. This is what I'll do is I'll paste in the link. So that's their article. They write articles, but basically it's available online instead of a paper version of a newspaper, is what it is. So they're linked to another site that I was on the other day. There's two of them that are linked together. But this article I thought was, I liked the list because I thought it was good. And to be fair, David has also found the list somewhere. So I don't know. Maybe some people have similar articles out there. But Rob said there's been another change. So let me see. Rob says there's been an update since we've been live. And I want to check, has anything else come out since we've been live that I've missed, guys? Because that was a bit of a roller coaster. That was a real roller coaster. He was going. No, he might be staying. So I'm going to just double check. Has that changed again in the last little while? Because it might have. Let's be honest. Oh, by the way, Everton are targeting Wan-Bissaka from West Ham in a £10 million deal. So this is in the Telegraph, by the way, from Mike McGrath. Not what I was looking for, but just since we're here. Everton have targeted Aaron Wan-Bissaka in a £10 million deal as clubs circle around West Ham following their relegation from the Premier League. Shockingly, West Ham need to raise around £150 million in player sales. Guys, in case I haven't said it 16 times, every single article that mentions West Ham right now, West Ham need to raise around £150 million in player sales. So lads, get in there and get Mavropanos. Get Mateus Fernandes, and when you're in there, get Mavropanos as well, please. I would like that very much. Okay, you have said, Rob, it is Sky Sports. Okay, Sky Sports. Jared Bowen apologizes to the fans. Where on Sky Sports? Is it like on the TV, Rob? Because if it's on the TV, I can't watch it. Is it on their X or where on Sky Sports? Let me know and I'll bring it in. But where on Sky Sports? Because obviously I can't watch the TV on the live. I'm on their page. And the last thing I can see... blah, blah, blah. Jared Bowen has released a statement apologising. But I can't see anything about... Nuno. There's Scott McTominay. I'm not seeing it, Rob. So if you have a link, put it in the chat, please. Let me know. If it's on the TV, I'm definitely not going to have seen it. Because I'm here with you guys. And nothing's popping up on their official pages. Sky Sports Nuno. 8 hours ago. That he's in talks about his future. I'm not seeing it. Rob, can you just send me a link, please? Can you please just send me a link? Because I'm on the Rex and I can't see it. So if you could just send me the link, that would make it a lot easier, please. Because it's just not coming up for me. And I don't want to just keep searching when everybody's waiting. Because it doesn't make for good viewing, just me typing away here. I can't see it at all. So if you have a link, pop it in. So lucky. The reason they keep saying, so because they dropped out of the Premier League, they lose a lot of revenue. So the Premier League pays the teams for participating. And so you get a certain amount of money for each position you finish in. So when you participate in the Championship, you don't get the same level of money. So they lose a lot of money just from the league, from not being within the league. They lose sponsorship money, because sponsors will pay more for being in the Premier League because more people are seeing it than if you're in the Championship. So they lose loads and loads of money. Yeah, that's what we've talked about. So the video on Sky Sports is just what we've talked about already. Nuno Espirito Santo and West Ham's hierarchy are in talks regarding his future at the club following relegation from the Premier League. So that is just Sky Sports confirming everything we've already spoken about. So Sky Sports tend to be a little bit behind, I've noticed these days, kind of than the sort of online media as such, because obviously when they put it online, it's out there immediately, where Sky Sports operate a little bit more traditionally, and like they wait and do a show and they do a like a section on it, if that makes sense. So I find oftentimes what they end up doing is just completely repeating what everybody else has already said. So there's nothing new that I can see in that wee video from Sky Sports is any different than anything we've said. So they've basically just confirmed that those talks are happening, but we've already had like 4 journalists tell us that yesterday. So those talks were happening. We know those talks are happening. But supposedly since those talks happened yesterday, there has been a change overnight. So the most up-to-date one is the article that I read out, that there's been a change overnight. So as of yesterday, multiple journalists reported that he was having these talks, that there were emergency talks happening, and that his job was at risk and he was highly likely to be sacked. But the most up-to-date report from today is that overnight, since those talks, things have changed. So things have changed. Some of the hierarchy now want him to stay, and so he may be looking at staying. They don't know, they're still in talks, but the feeling since yesterday, which he was almost definitely going to get sacked, into today has changed. And overnight, some of them have decided that they might want him to stay. So if there's any more updates since this morning, we'll have a look at them maybe on this evening's show. But as it stands, that is the most up-to-date report. Sky Sports are just playing catch up with everybody else. But it's been a bit dramatic, guys. It's been a bit dramatic for the last 2 days. We're talking about Spurs. Spurs is real dramatic. West Ham isn't quite as dramatic as Spurs, but I mean, it's pretty dramatic. Like, falling out with everybody, problems all over the place, very toxic. It doesn't, for me, I don't think it makes sense for him to stay. I don't think it makes sense for him, because he clearly doesn't want to. He's not happy there. It's not a good environment. He doesn't like his coaching staff. He doesn't like his players. He doesn't want to take a pay cut. He doesn't want to be there. Most of the other people don't seem to want him there. The only people that might want him there are the board, who aren't dealing with him directly on a daily basis. So the only people that might be willing to tolerate him are the people that like don't have to deal with him. So I think it doesn't make sense for either party. I don't think it makes sense for West Ham, because a lot of the people there don't want him. And I don't think it makes sense for him, because he doesn't want to be there. So why would you? I think it makes more sense of parting off the ways, if I'm totally honest with you. But we'll see, because the change of mind overnight, we don't know what may have caused that change of mind. So, and that's it, Damien. That's what I would think. If there's no joy from him, just leave. Do you know what I mean? For him, it's not good. We've all worked in those jobs where we hate it, where you go in every day and the people around you, you don't like them, the environment, you don't like them, you don't enjoy what you're doing. It seeps into your soul. It's not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for you mentally. So for me, I think he's better off just going for his own benefit. Harold says, hot take from Harold, Spurs to get 5th or 6th next season. Mark my word. I've put it on the screen so we can all remember, people. Mark this date. Hold on to your hats. Hot take Harold. He's put it in. Let us remember. Rob slipped on the banana peel. It's all right, Rob. It's all right, Rob. It happens to the best of us. It's only because I know Sky Sports are a bit slow, so I double-checked their date, and it was before the latest update. Oh, back. She's been so quiet. I forgot she was under there. And then she just had a little stretch from her nap. Give you an absolute heart attack. Right, lads. I think that is her telling me it's time. It's time. You've been yabbering for long enough. Let me rest in peace. I'm going to go and recover my senses after the cat giving me a meltdown. Thank you all very much for being here, guys. Special shout out. Of course, are Stuart and Rob. with the sticker competition as always. How would we actually cope if it wasn't for Stuart and Rob? So shout out to you guys. Thank you very much. Also, shout out to All Boxed Up. Mohammed is officially a whole month the Tea Titan. A whole month. Massive shout out to Jay gifting the membership, to, of course, our lovely Sam. And just thank you guys all for getting so involved. I really do appreciate it. And it just allows me to keep doing this. It allows me to keep doing this. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I will be back this evening, my dears. This evening at 7 p.m. Wait. It is 7 p.m. When is this final, lads? When is this Champions League final? Is it at a weekend? Is it in a midweek? When is that even happening? Is it? I think it might be at the weekend. Feels like it might be at the weekend. Let me just double check. I just haven't looked. The 30th. Sure, that's ages away. That's Saturday. Sure, we have loads of time. I will be back 7 p.m. this evening. Hopefully you will be back with me. Thank you all for being here. Go and enjoy that sun. Have a lovely, lovely afternoon. You are all wonderful teacups. Thank you so much, guys.